All right, guys, it looks like we are live. Come on in, want to know. Hey, Papa Bear. Hey, Texas Phantom Treasures. Great to see you guys. Hello from Texas. Great. Yes, I think so. Texas Phantom Treasures. That would definitely give it away there. I love Texas. I don't know if you saw our interview with Daniel Miller of the Texas Nationalist Movement. That was really awesome. We'll be talking about some of those interviews today. Too much winning. It's too much winning. I agree, Papa Bear. Hello, for Alex. Hello from my toilet in New York. Oh, gosh. Oh, that's so great. Yo, CJ, I'm a big fan of you. Great seeing you guys. Come on in. Joy, Patriotic Mom. Great to see you guys. North Dakota, I assume. Yes, Joy. ND. Trump forever. That's right. Teflon Don. That's what they're saying. Come on in, guys. Great to have you. I hope you're all having a wonderful Valentine's Day. God bless all of you, or as other people would say, Singles Awareness Day is, I guess, the counterpart to it. But great to have you guys. I hope you're all having a wonderful Sunday, a wonderful Valentine's Day here in the States. I couldn't keep away from you. We have to celebrate the Trump victory, the stomping on the Democrats yesterday, as well as establishment rhino Republicans, these pathetic, feckless, weakling Republicans who are really Diablos. I don't like Rhino. I like Diablo. Democrat and all but label. But come on in, one and all. Come on in. Yes, thank you for the super chats. They're very appreciated. Come on in, one and all. Before we start our victory lap here, hey, guys, tomorrow night we got a great guest coming in for our online Q&A. The conservative journalist Andy No is going to be with us tomorrow night. Mark your calendars. February 15th. It's 6 p.m. Eastern Times. Thank you so much, Angelic Starlight. Thank you so much. 0-2. I love it. It is true. It is true. We'll be talking about that. We've only had 4 impeachments in the history of our nation, and you just witnessed 2 of them in the last year. You witnessed 2 of them brought to you by wacky Nancy and Chuck Schumer. It's just unbelievable what liberals destroy everything they touch, and they even destroyed impeachment. But I'm getting sidetracked because I am inviting you tomorrow night to our live online Q&A with conservative journalist Andy No. This is tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, so early evening. Andy is that's the time that works for him. Normally we do it at 8 p.m., but tomorrow it is 6 p.m. You are invited to ask your questions and to be alive. I'm just going to talk with him for about 10 minutes to open it up, and then it is all you. Sandra Ford, thank you so much. Yeah, we're going to be talking about these creepy rhinos, these Diablos who need to be primaried as soon as possible and gotten rid of. All right, there's no room in the party for swamp rats like that. But alas, again, I go back. Andy's going to be talking with us live about his brand new book, Unmasked, about his infiltration into the life of Antifa. As I know, many of you know, Andy has been on the ground in Portland throughout all this insanity that's been going on there. We do hold these live Q&As every week. They're now Mondays and Thursday nights. They're exclusive for our Insiders Club members. Now, if you're not a part of my Insiders Club, no problem. All you got to do is just click on the link below, and you can sign up. And as a special incentive, you're going to get your first week absolutely free, because we want you to be there tomorrow night so you can ask your questions. Andy, we'd love for you to stay as an Insiders Club member, because you get a backstage pass to me and to some awesome guests, the movers and the shakers of the conservative movement all over the world. So make sure to click on your link below, become an Insiders member. You'll get your first week absolutely free, and I'm going to see you tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, for our live Q&A with Andy No, and you're going to get to ask him your questions. You're going to really, really love it. Can't wait. All right, so let's dive right in here. Pelosi's pissy tamper tantrum. I love it. All right, so I think Donald Trump Jr. said this best, okay? Here's what he tweeted out yesterday. Perhaps a lot of you already saw this, but right after it was announced that Trump got acquitted, I don't know if you were following it all. the impeachment circus, the trial, it basically it fell apart. It imploded. It literally keeled over. The Democrats did everything they can to try to awaken some semblance of a backlash against Trump, and they realized it was just making him stronger, and they just stopped. They just pulled the plug. They voted, and it was over and done. Here is what Donald Trump Jr. tweeted out after it was announced that Trump was acquitted for a second time. Surprise, surprise, right? Are the feckless 7 rhino Republicans, are they going to pay for all that money that was wasted? Do they have to do that? They're not going to get paychecks anymore until the money's paid back, isn't it? Because they just wasted everyone's time. We knew what the outcome was. And 2 of them, keep in mind, had voted previously that this was unconstitutional. Keep that in mind, too, if you want to know how swamp rats work. Here's what Donald Trump Jr. tweeted out. This is so good. Great week. Trump beats impeachment. Dems in disarray. The Lincoln Project burnt to the ground. Amen to that. The rhinos of the GOP establishment exposed and collapsing. Cuomo and Dem governors in free fall. The media depressed and lashing out at Dems for their impeachment fail. Hashtag MAGA ascending again. I mean, one more time. It doesn't get better than that, right? We're celebrating here. One more time. Great week. Trump beats impeachment. Dems in disarray. Lincoln Project burnt to the ground. The rhinos in the GOP establishment exposed and collapsing. Cuomo and Dem governors in free fall. The media depressed and lashing out at Dems for their impeachment fail. Hashtag MAGA ascending again. And make no mistake, MAGA is ascending again. In fact, we've been arguing it never descended. America First nationalist populism has never been more popular. 75 million strong, getting stronger every day, especially with Sleepy Joe at the helm. All Biden is doing when he wakes up from his naps, all Biden is doing as we speak is reconstituting the very Obama-era conditions that gave rise to Trump and MAGA in the first place. That's all he did. We had David Horowitz on a couple of weeks back. He was our guest for our live Q&A on 2 Thursday nights ago. And we're having the one tomorrow with Andy No. If you're just joining us, you're going to love that. So make sure to sign up for that down below. You get your first week absolutely free, no obligation. So we got Andy No tomorrow night. But a couple of weeks ago, we had David Horowitz. And David Horowitz could be, he could be a little, thanks, Golden Eagle. God bless you, man. David Horowitz could be a little pessimistic. And, he's seen firsthand Marxist, communism basically take over the Democrat Party over the last 30 years, okay? But what he said is what gives him so much hope in all of this is that despite all of the insanity in the Democrat Party and the Rhino Republican establishment, or Liz Cheney, Ben Sass establishment, despite them allying themselves with the CNN-led mainstream Marxist media, and our big tech oligarchs who combine all together to force out all conservative voices into exile via the cancel culture they pressure big business with. What gives David Horowitz hope, he said, is that nearly 100 million Americans said on November 3rd, we want nothing to do with this. We want nothing to do with this great reset. We want nothing to do with Obama-era conditions. We are 100% MAGA, America First, deplorables. So the populist revolt really is just beginning. And I gotta say, I really appreciated the assessment of this impeachment fiasco by Michael Goodwin over at the New York Post. Let me just read a portion of it. He's almost right. He was almost there, and then we're going to fill in and make it really, really right. I think you're going to like it. Here's what Goodwin wrote. I think it came out this morning. In the long history of our republic, there have been only 4 presidential impeachments, and you just witnessed 2 of them. 2 of the 4 presidential impeachments in our history came courtesy of Pelosi and Schumer in the last 2 years. That's, of course, making history in all the wrong ways. This is, again, Michael Goodwin. They have normalized impeachment as a partisan weapon, which is the last thing our country needs. And I would put in parentheses, that's the last thing that our founding fathers ever wanted. Okay. So it shows you how radical and nutty these Democrats are. The growing instances of violence are being stoked by extremist demands for political purity, and the efforts to convict Trump and boot him from the ballot last year and in 2024 are dangerous provocations. To his credit, Marco Rubio was asked this. Marco Rubio was asked, to his credit in terms of his answer, don't you think Trump, maybe there should be a vote, invoke the 14th Amendment, which, by the way, probably won't happen because they need a 60-vote majority to actually have supermajority to have the vote in the first place. It's the filibuster, and it doesn't look like they're going to get that. But regardless, don't you think that should happen? Don't you think they should vote to keep Trump off the ballot? And to his credit, Marco Rubio said, who are we, Washington establishment folk, to tell the American people who they can't vote for? Who are we to do that? So I think, kudos. But Pelosi and Schumer think they have every right to dictate to you who you can vote for and who you can't, just as they think they have every right to dictate who should be canceled and who should not. This is, again, going back to Michael Goodwin. The final vote of 57 to 43 fell 10 votes short of the 2/3 needed for conviction and was only a vote or 2 closer than was predicted before this impeachment circus began. The mutual decision to backtrack on the call for witnesses earlier in the day was a merciful sign that it was all over but the voting. That's the implosion part. For Trump, the acquittal allows him to begin moving on with his life and focus on what role he wants to play in 2022 midterms and whether he wants to run in 2024. Beyond that, here's the key we're going to latch onto. Expect Democrats to be especially creative in trying to keep Trump's name in the headlines, because nothing unites their fractured party more like hating him, and I would add the deplorables, us, hating him, and Saturday's failure will provide more fuel for their perpetual outrage. All right, this is what's really behind all this nonsense. Goodwin came close, okay? He's the closest that I saw among the analysts on this. He fell a little bit short, which is why we're here, right? So we're gonna give you the full picture, I think. Here's what's really behind the Democrats and the mainstream Marxist media's fixation with impeachment. It all comes down to we've talked about this before, but it all comes down to what's generally known in the literature, sociological literature, as resentment politics, okay? Again, write that one down. That's an important term to keep in mind. Resentment politics. Resentment politics is very interesting because scholars have recognized that resentment is a very powerful emotion. It is an overwhelming sense of indignation at being treated unfairly. Okay. And the key here is that whenever you have resentment, it's always directed at someone else. So there's always an us versus them kind of view of the world, right? So that's key. So resentment is this sort of righteous, visceral indignation of being treated unfairly. And it's always directed at someone else, and therefore there's always an us versus them kind of framework. And what's so interesting, as scholars have pointed out, is that political elites over the last several centuries, I mean, going all the way back to classical Athens and Rome, political elites were scared to death of resentment, mass resentment in the people, because they thought it was a dangerous emotion that could lead to rebellion and overthrow the political class. And so what our political elites tended to do over the centuries, again, going back to the political rhetoric of classical Athens and Rome, is they tended to foster an internal unity by appealing to external threats. Okay, so by appealing to external threats and warning of an outside enemy, they created internal solidarity between themselves, the people, and the political class. Sounds decent enough, easy enough, but here's the key. Here's the key. Scholars have noticed that since the 1960s, our politicians, instead of focusing on an external enemy to breed internal solidarity, our political class started focusing instead on an internal enemy. You got to get that. In other words, our political class found that they could benefit even more politically. They could benefit even more if they focus on an enemy from within, which ended up repurposing resentment. It transformed it into a tool for dividing the populace and diffusing that resistance. So in other words, Democrats have been masters at demonizing their political opponents as racists and bigots and homophobes and misogynists as a way of deflecting resentment away from them and imposing it solely, in this case, in the deplorables, on the MAGA crowd, on the political right. And so the new resentment politics, by its nature today, seeks to create a very strong antagonism between us, between the citizens. And that allows politicians to divide and conquer. As long as they have the people fighting themselves, the political class is safe. We're going to be too busy to challenge our political class. What made Trump such a threat to the political class is he turned resentment politics back on them. That's what you got to get. What made Trump such a threat is he turned resentment politics back on our political class. He made the political class and both parties, both Democrats and establishment Republicans, he made them the legitimate object of disdain, such that the new political animosity has become increasingly the people versus the political class, or the ruled versus the rulers, right? Ordinary Americans versus oligarchs, nationalists versus globalists. That's huge, because for Trump, like in classical rhetoric, resentment was once again directed against an external threat, globalism. Globalism is an external threat, but it's an external threat that's made its way internally via DC and the swamp, the permanent political class. And so Trump's unpardonable sin, as far as the establishment is concerned, was redirecting resentment back against them, back against the political class. It was so good. He was so good at it. He ended up defeating 15 of the GOP's finest in the 2016 primaries. So what we saw here over the course of these last several weeks, with Democrats and Liz Cheney and Mittens Romney, establishment Republicans right there with them, don't forget their names, 7 of them who voted, they voted to actually find President Trump guilty of deliberately attempting to incite insurrection without a shred of actual evidence. We talked about that on Friday's video. That was my namesake, Jonathan Turley, pointed out. It was the entire trial was based on innuendo. There was not a shred of actual evidence. And yet these 7 Republicans, because of their fecklessness, because of their weakness, these 7 Republicans voted with Chuck Schumer. Do not forget their names, okay? So what we saw over the last several weeks is that Democrats and rhino establishment Republicans banded together to try to reset the equilibrium and redirect the animosity away from themselves and back against us and each other. They wanted us to start hating each other again. And that's why they're constantly ragging on Trump and his supporters. This is what the impeachment was all about. It was all about recreating an internal enemy that would get the people fighting each other, which leaves the political class sequestered and untouched. And that's what I think Michael Goodwin was getting at here when he wrote that all the Democrats are going to be doing is they're going to be trying to keep Trump's name in the headlines and the deplorables in the headlines because nothing unites their fractured party like hating us and hating him, right? And the one that Donald Trump Jr. said, Donald Trump Jr. I think said it best, it didn't work. In the end, Trump is poised for a massive comeback in 2022 and 2024. 2022 in terms of the midterms, 2024 in terms of the election. So that's exactly what Fox News' John Roberts said today, with the impeachment fiasco going down in flames. It fell apart. I mean, it literally, they were building their case, and it just, they imploded. It was hilarious. With the impeachment fiasco going down in flames, Trump is now poised to dominate the House in 2022, help the Republicans dominate the House in 2022, which will in turn set up his re-election campaign in 2024. And this is happening all as the contested states, five of the seven contested states, the ones that Republicans dominate, they are now all beginning to clean up their election rules. Did you see that? Their election process? And that's going to be tested in 2022. That's going to be the test case. If they clean up their election procedures, finally, and the Republicans, if it's a bloodbath landslide in 2022, look out, because Trump is ready to conquer again in 2024. He's ready for his reelection with just that 4-year interim in between. Democrats lose again. Of course, we're going to be talking about all the stars that have fallen of late over the last few days, Andrew Cuomo being one of them. Bunch of Democrat stars are collapsing as we speak. The Lincoln Project. Oh my gosh, what a bunch of jokers. All right, so we got a lot to talk about. This is just to wet the whistle for this week. We got a lot to talk about in our videos this week, but amazing stuff going on, gang. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, in Arizona, I just saw one. In Arizona, we're going to crush the rhinos. That's going to be the big thing. Again, right after the day after January 6th, I did a video. Is it time to start a third party? Because it just looked like we had been so betrayed by the Republicans and the Republican establishment in Georgia and Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania and Arizona. Is it time? It looks like President Trump just took a step back, said, wait a minute, we'll beat this impeachment idiocy. We'll beat that. We'll become stronger than ever. They'll become weaker than ever because they lost again. They're all bark, no bite. We're going to primary Cheney and those 10 Republicans. If anything, the impeachment was really interesting because it brought to the surface who the true MAGA Republicans are and who the true establishment Democrat Republican, the Diablos, Democrat and all but label are. So now we know there's 7 in the Senate and there's 10 in the House, and those are the legitimate objects of primarying to get rid of them and begin seeing MAGA faithful all the way through the party. And when we see that, if we can get that in 2022, gang, this is going to be so exciting leading up to 2024. All right, gang, we got tons to talk about, but hey, get back to your Valentine's Day. Have a lovely night. Pop open some wine with the missus. And again, sorry for Singles Awareness Week or Singles Awareness Day, but well, anyway, I want you to have a lovely, lovely weekend with your family. Do not forget tomorrow night, live online Q&A with Andy No, talking about his infiltration into the life of Antifa. There are a few citizen journalists braver than his conservative journalist, Andy No. You're going to be able to ask him your questions directly tomorrow night, Monday evening, February 15th at 6 p.m. Eastern time. But you got to join our Insiders Club. That's how you'll get your Zoom link. And don't worry, if you're worried about price or whatever, you get your first week absolutely free, no obligation. You can quit at any time. We want you to be there for that Q&A. I think you're going to really love it. For our European audience out there, we're normally at 8 p.m. This is going to be nice and early for you, okay? What is it, 11 p.m. your time, but it'll be at least a little bit better than the 8 o'clock time slot. So come on in, guys, tomorrow night, 6 p.m., sign on up. Enjoy your wonderful Valentine's Day for those of you in the States here. Yeah, MAGA is ascending again. It's 2016 all over again. It's amazing stuff. Can't wait to see you tomorrow night, 6 p.m. with Andy No to ask him your questions. It's your backstage pass. Our Insiders Club is your backstage pass to the movers and shakers of the worldwide conservative movement. You're going to love it, and you're going to be able to intersect and interact with thousands of conservatives from all over the world. So I'll see you guys tomorrow night. And until then, I'll see you on YouTube. All right. God bless everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. We'll see you.